Welcome to the Rundown with Ramon. In today's show, we're going to talk about several important things, including the importance of hustle, hard work, perseverance. All these are lessons from a movie I just watched. Adam Sandler was the star in it from Netflix, and it was called Hustle. I'm going to tell you all about that and lessons I learned. Also, we're going to talk about lessons learned from me spilling red marinara sauce on my beige carpet and what I learned from that and how you can apply it to your daily life. And that's not all. We have a lot more in store for you. In fact, 8 more tips and insights to help you live your best life or build a better business. And by the way, that's what we're going to do in each episode of the Rundown with Ramon is help you grow your business or help you improve your life. And by improve your life, that includes your family, health, finances, and even your faith. And by the way, as we get to know each other better, I have 2 adult children, been married almost 30 years. I'm a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author of several books, in fact, a keynote speaker. You can get to know me better at RamonRay.com. So welcome to the Rundown with Ramon. Thanks for watching. Let's get started in this episode. So Adam Sandler has a brand new movie out on Netflix called Hustle. And here's the premise of the movie. Adam Sandler is a struggling coach, and he's trying to find the next great athlete for the team that needs a boost to be able to help them perform better for their team. He's a scout, a basketball scout. And so the owner of the team who loved Adam dearly died and left the team to the owner's kind of terrible son with a gnarly bad attitude. But here's what I got out of watching that movie, and I think you'll enjoy it too. Hard work pays off. Our past does not always have to define us. How bad do you want something in life? Do you have a dream, something that you want to go after, something that you really want? Well, ask yourself, how bad do you really want it, and what are you willing to do to go for that dream? So how bad do you want it? Can you make lemonade from the lemons that life often throws our way? What will you risk to get what you want? Oftentimes, to get to the next level, there's an element of risk that it may take before you can get there. Life is not a bed of comfort. At times, it's some hardships, some scrapes and bumps to get where you want to go. Another thing that was important in this movie, how you treat people is important. How you treat everybody around you, even the person you may think is that lowest level person in the office. And I think the other big lesson for business is important. Netflix is the brand we all know, but guess what? Netflix alone can't just pull in viewership. It's big names like Adam Sandler and other that help give that uplift to their whole movie empire. So I encourage you to go watch The Hustle on Netflix. I enjoyed the movie. It was full of comedy, but full of great lessons learned for us as well. Next up, how to successfully found 2 businesses at exactly the same time. Many of you are business owners and entrepreneurs, and we're running and doing multiple things at once. And part of this is the aspect of task management, the aspect of multitasking. But what if you're running 2 businesses at the same time? Well, there's a tip that I was reading in Entrepreneur, and this is by Lucas Miller, who's the founder and CEO of Echelon Coffee LLC. And a few things he lays out. 1, you got to delegate. If you want to get to the next level, you gotta delegate. You gotta delegate, in fact, a lot, and begin to trust people. You gotta let go what you think that only you can do. Another thing that's important is to track your time spent with each business. You're running multiple businesses, maybe 2, maybe 3, multiple projects, but track and understand the time that you're spending on each one of those businesses so they each get the appropriate time they need for the stage they're at in business. And again, I've started 4 companies, sold 2 companies, so I know a thing or 2 about starting multiple projects and businesses. And I think another thing that's really important, he talked about, especially for retail locations, use a single location for both businesses. If you're trying to build a business in Texas and another business in, I don't know, Atlanta, it could be a bit tough. So you may want to try to co-locate those businesses in the same place, especially if it's a physical location. And the last point he mentioned was benchmark a successful process. Benchmark what you're doing so you can measure yourself today how you did yesterday. You can measure yourself tomorrow how you did today. So benchmarking is important, and not just to benchmark the stats, but also the systems and processes in your business. Make sure you have those as well so you can be well on your journey to scaling your business. Are you a mom out there? Are you feeling a bit overwhelmed? This is an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal that talked about how mothers are overwhelmed. So for all you moms out there, this might be good for you, especially if you're a mom running a business. There's a stat that said Motherly, a women's well-being company, surveyed more than 17,000 mostly millennial and Gen Z mothers for its annual State of Motherhood survey a few weeks ago. And the survey showed that moms are less willing than dads to outsource domestic duties because they feel those tasks are part of their identity. And they also found that women are nervous about creating tension by raising the issue. So there's often some problems involved, even though the dad or the husband wants to be involved and often isn't involved. I'm a very involved dad in my family, but mom is mom, and she just has a different role to play in our family than I do. And so there's a few things, they say, 3 things that could be really important to you, especially you busy moms. 1, discuss expectations. If you have tiny kids, they're probably going to be too small for that, but especially with the guy in your life, especially with your older children, discuss their expectations. What do you expect from them? What do they expect from you? What can you mutually expect from each other? Another thing they said was do a daily check-in. Check in with each other from time to time and see how are things going. You as the mom check in with either your husband or your kids, or even ask them to check in on you. And then there's a game called Lay Out Your Cards. The point is you can use cards to put the tasks and responsibilities of the house is done to make it easy for everybody to see and see who has responsibility. Another thing that I saw interesting today is that I travel quite a bit. I travel around the world and speak on stages all over. Of course, less during the pandemic and COVID, but that's increasing. Summer travel, or any travel for that matter, but especially during summer months and when there's high travel period of time, that can be a pain. There's a quote here that says, if you're at an airport when it's canceled, go stand in line. But while you're doing that, get on the phone and check the internet and look at the airline's mobile app. This is one expert that was in this article, what they said. So a few things you can do as well. Reach out to the airlines directly via Twitter. You'll find many of the airlines are very responsive on Twitter, on social media in general. And the worst thing travelers can do. Now, here's the worst thing travelers can do according to this article. The worst thing travelers can do is not act quickly enough. You're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Oh, things are gonna be fine. Nah. Things end up not being so fine. So the worst thing you can do is not acting quickly enough. Another thing to talk about, this article touched on, is car rental troubles. So that's something to keep in mind. Car rental troubles are likely to continue. You will need a backup plan. This was said by Brett Snyder, whose cranky concierge business includes helping passengers during flight disruptions. So for those of you who travel a lot, this bit of information and tip will definitely be for you. The biggest mistake companies make with cybersecurity and how to avoid them. Here's some tips on cybersecurity. Really interesting article that came out, and I think that online security is so important. Many people think it's just the big businesses that need to focus on this, but it's also the smaller businesses. 1, focusing on tech instead of employees. Don't just focus on the technology, but focus on the people you're hiring. Make sure you're hiring good people. Are you relying on training instead of changing attitudes? Training is important, yes, but don't forget the attitudes of the people you're working with, the customer you have. The market sentiment will affect the security of your business as well. Leaders who set bad examples. What is the kind of example you're setting as a leader in your business? Are you writing your password down on the proverbial sticky note? If you're doing that, why shouldn't the people you work with? So we as leaders, you as leaders, let's set great examples. Not analyzing small decisions. This is important. It's sometimes those small, little, tiny things that can make a big impact on our security. Maybe somebody hasn't reset their password for a while. That may be small. You may want to ignore it and say, I'm not going to worry about it. But that can be a big security hole. Focusing on prevention at the expense of recovery. Interesting. Sometimes we focus so much on preventing, which is good. But when something happens, if something happens, are you prepared to recover the data and remediate the situation in your business? I hope so. Missing the competitive advantage. This is pretty interesting. As you're building a better and more secure business, you can tout this as a competitive advantage to their marketplace. Risk decisions and scarcity. Some of you may know Jason Fried, president of 37 Signals, which is kind of a task management, project management company, and other things that many small companies and bigger companies use. And he talked about the interesting power of risk and scarcity. And I wanted to share that with you in his email newsletter that came out. He says, risk tolerance is the scarcest resource in most companies. Jason says, it's my job, my obligation really, to fill the coffers with risk, not just money. It's my role to make sure there's an ample supply. And the third point he mentions here, there are certain risks founders need to take that others will not. So it's my encouragement to encourage you as leaders, as business owners, we have to be willing to take some risk more than others. But we can hire people who can keep our day-to-day company humming along just fine, building the systems and processes that we have. That's great. But as leaders, if we're going to grow, if we're going to expand, we have to learn and be able and willing to take risk. Another thing here, the power of the lunch break and why so many of us are taking one, or bad rather, at taking one. Do you take a lunch break? DM me on IG, Ramon Ray Smart Hustle. I am on Instagram. Find me on Twitter. DM me, engage with me. Let me know what you think. Do you take lunch breaks, or sometimes do you skip out on lunch breaks? A professor, John Trugas, says that humans can typically focus and perform well in 90-minute bursts, said this professor from the University of Toronto who studies lunch breaks. Another quote here is that when you have an internal dialogue that goes, I don't have the time, I'll do it later, that's when you end up with people who are starving by 4 p.m. and their energy is completely drained. So what's one thing you can do? One thing you can do, start by peppering smaller breaks of 5 to 10 minutes into your day. So listen, lunch breaks are important. We're going hard day by day by day. We gotta not just feed our mind, but you gotta also feed your body during the day. So consider how you can take more breaks just to rest your mind, but also a break for lunch. We can't help everyone. We can't save the world. A lesson I learned from Old Navy. You may have seen the headlines recently that Old Navy had an initiative in their desire, which was good, to be diverse and share and have clothing for all sizes. But what happened was they then had a glut and oversupply of inventory, and that's never good to have too much inventory because that means you're losing money. So here's the lesson that I picked up from this, especially the one that we small businesses can learn from. We have a desire to help everyone, a desire to save everyone, and that's good and noble. But do understand, we can't save everybody. We can't save the entire world. And if you try to do so, you've probably heard this before, you'll end up probably saving nobody. So instead of trying to save everybody in your business, focus on the 1, 2, or 3 particular segments that you're good at, the segments that really want what you have, the segments you can really serve. And then by God's grace, as you build wealth in your business, you know what? Then you can try to save more people once your foundation is secured. But that's interesting. Old Navy is a big billion-dollar brand, yes. But I think what's interesting, they try to serve everybody, and they end up having a big problem in their business. Another point here. Some time ago, short time ago, I had bought some red marinara laced, slathered, covered penne, Italian food for my family. 2 nice, foil round containers of the food. And I had ordered pizza and salad, so I took mine out and set it on the TV table in my living room. And the box that the other food was in wasn't balanced right. That was my fault. And it tumbled on the floor. I was so angry. My wife was not happy. My niece was there. It shifted the mood of the house, what we were doing. The carpet, the beautiful beige carpet, had a big red stain in it now. But there's some lessons I learned from this. One, it's a waste of money. Yes. My wife is upset. Yes. But she forgave me. She's a lovely, lovely woman who I've been married to for almost 30 years. But here's the thing that I learned from it. One, we're always going to make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, are we willing to move on and get over it and move forward? Number 2, it's a lesson that taught me to be careful. So when we make mistakes, when we screw up, when we mess up, make sure that we can learn a lesson from it. 3, don't stay dejected all the time. You should be a little sad, be a little remorseful, but then you gotta get up and move on. So those are a few things I learned. That red stain there is still kind of in the carpet. A lot of it came off, but it's still there, and we shifted the carpet around to hide it. And sometimes you'll have a scar from the mistakes you made. In fact, I have a scar on my hand here, right here, from years ago working at one of my first jobs in a grocery store. I cut myself with a knife pretty bad. I have that scar. I'm healed, I'm fine, my hand works perfectly well, but the scar is still there to always remind me to be careful with a knife. So I'm Ramon Ray. This is the Rundown with Ramon. I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to check me out at RamonRay.com. Follow me across social platforms. Let me know how you're enjoying this episode today. Up next, we have a power panel that's going to talk about the things we've just talked about. Stay tuned. Everybody, so welcome back to the Rundown with Ramon. Thanks so much for watching. So those were a few points I said. I hope you loved them. And now for the most exciting part of this show, our panel discussion of experts. I brought my friends, my family, as you can say, to chat and talk to me about this episode. That's right, Lolita. Before we begin every week, let's introduce the panel real briefly. David Hill. What's up, brother? How are you, man? Give us a bit of an understanding of who you do, what you do in the world, how you make the world a better place. David Hill, talk to us.
What's up, Ramon? Yes, my vision on earth is to inspire millions. I do that by working with salespeople. I work with people 1 at a time, 10 at a time, 11,000 at a time when I'm on stages, whatever it takes, get to 1 million and then take it to the next level. And I work with salespeople on connecting, converting, following up, ultimately closing more sales, brother. So happy to be here today. Thank you.
David Hill, glad you're here. Glad you're here. Thank you so much for adding value. Robert Kennedy III, thanks for being here, my brother. How are you this morning? How are you today? How are you this evening? Whenever people are listening, and I know you're the communication aficionado. At least I think you are. Maybe that's changed since we last talked. Tell us a bit who you are, brother. What you do in the world.
I'm gonna need to take my energy like way down to kind of balance this out, because Ramon is like, how about that? Hold on, Ramon, you know we got to do this. Hold on.
Oh, I didn't know we had sound going on here. Hold on a minute.
Listen, you gotta roll with a band, man. You gotta roll with some theme music. Hey, how about that? So I am Robert Kennedy III, RK3 is what the cool people call me. I am Ramon says, communications guy, but what I ultimately do is help people to create greater visibility and generate income utilizing the one thing that's unique to them, their story. So we talk about storytelling a whole lot, communication a whole lot. How about that?
I love it. Robert, so glad you're here. Lolita Walker, great to have you here. Queen, great to have you here. Lolita Walker, you do so many different things that are amazing, retreats, poetry, consulting, all the kind of things. Introduce yourself to the Fox Soul community. How are you, Lolita? Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I see I'm holding it down for the women community. I am Yes, let's take it all the way there. I am Lolita E. Walker. I am a certified life, leadership, executive coach, speaker, poet, all of the things, author, but right now, I am so excited to announce that I help power women. Some are listening in right now, really bring out the greatness that's inside of them. I wrap it back up, replay it, and help them soar beyond where they are today. Then I also work with some of your favorite organizations to really help them drive clarity, confidence, and commitment. So I am here and so excited to be with you today, Ramon. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad to have you here. So, as I put my timer on there, let's kick off this panel. Listen, I started out by talking about Adam Sandler. I don't know if anybody hates Adam Sandler. He's such a funny guy. I don't think anybody hates him, but he's definitely America's comedian. He had this movie out called Hustle. David Hill, I'm going to turn to you first. Talk about Hustle. He was a basketball coach or a basketball scout trying to get this guy. A few things that I learned from this, David, is that, you know, the grit, the hard work. It was a darn funny movie too. So I don't know if you saw it or not, but David, talk to us about this aspect of hustle, hard work, grit. And if you want, how you love Adam Sandler, or maybe you don't. David Hill, take it away.
Yeah, man. I haven't seen the movie, to be honest with you. Although I did see Top Gun that was pretty solid. That was a really good movie. Yeah, man. It's all about everything's about grit. It's about that, you know, stick to it. Just, you know, and I think one of the challenges, Ramon, is a lot of people will intend to do something and not set the right expectations for themselves and realize that, you know, if I want to do this big thing, it's probably in most cases going to be 10 times harder than I anticipated. And so we're not setting ourselves with the right expectations up front. And so when you talk about grit and hard work, I agree with that 100%. But since I didn't see the movie, I will pass it to someone else that did.
Lolita, I'm going to turn to you in a minute, but expectations is so right, David. Sometimes we can get expectation, I don't know what word I want to use, but expectation overhaul or something like that. And if you don't set the right expectations, I guess that grit and hard work could be for naught. Those are my words, not yours. Lolita, talk to us. What do you think about the movie or the principles that we learned in the movie? Either way you want to take it.
Let's talk principles, but first let's talk Adam Sandler. I am an Adam Sandler fan, okay? Every movie that he has, I crack up, and I'm not so much a comedian fan, quite frankly, but he always brings it, and I love his movies because there's always something at the end of it, right? You get some lesson, and I'm all here about the lesson. So I'm an Adam Sandler fan. When I think about grit, I just think about perseverance. Let's look at each one of us. And I think everybody has a bit of grit in them. And I love that you talked about expectations. Come on now, right? Expectations and setting what that looks like and feels like will really help us with our grit. So I'm all about the principle on this one right here. But Adam Sandler, absolutely, I'm all in.
Absolutely. Robert, bring it home, brother. What do you think?
You know, I have not seen Hustle. I'm still on like Happy Gilmore and Waterboy. That's
Good one, man.
Yeah, I'm still on old school Adam Sandler. I haven't seen any of his new
stuff. Do you have a Netflix account, Robert?
Yeah, but the kids use it. I mean,
so you're still on the VHS.
Betamax, dude.
Go ahead, Robert.
You know, I try to binge watch some stuff.
Yes.
Sometimes I just haven't had a lot of movie time recently, but I think that really relates to what we do as small business owners. We've been talking about this word grit, and if you don't have grit, then you're not a small business owner. You cannot be a small business owner, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it. I mean, big business owner. You cannot do that if you do not have grit, because things aren't always perfect, right? It's not the silver clouds or whatever. There's ups, there's downs, hills, valleys, all sorts of crazy stuff. And if you decide that when it's crazy, you're going to quit, then, you know, go on about your way. But if you decide that you've got this goal that you're after, if you've got a dream that you're after, if you want to make change and impact and transformation in the world, then grit is a requirement. You've got to have it so that you can push through when things are not working as smoothly as they possibly could. You gotta be able to embrace the pain and push forward, man.
Yeah, we'll see whoever else wants. Go ahead, Alita, please.
Yeah, just real quick.
Yeah.
You remember when you were young, it made me think about just hustle. Remember you just like hustle, hustle, all your coaches, hustle, hustle, get around there, hustle, hustle. And you know, that's that grit that we're talking about. It's all about, come on, you want that thing right there? You want to get to home plate? Hustle, hustle, act like you want it, own it. Yeah, so that's what it made me think of. And we all hustle in different type of ways. But I think that grit is that power in knowing that there's something more, there's something more, there's something more. So good.
You also need the certainty though, and the clarity, because without the certainty and the clarity, we're not going to continue. When it gets tough, that's what we're going to let off, right? Our comfort zone is going to kick in and say, hold on a minute, slow it down a little bit, right? So that's a deeper conversation. But I believe when you have certainty and you're really clear, same thing Robert talked about, you talked about it, Lolita, when you mentioned what you do earlier with women, helping women with certainty. I believe you used the word certainty.
Clarity,
yes, clarity. That's right, clarity. It's very, yeah, I wrote down, yep, you're right. That's what it's all about. So when we're clear, we're going to keep moving forward. And I think that's one of the challenges. A lot of people just aren't 100% clear why they're doing what they're doing and exactly what they're going to accomplish by doing it. So.
Right. But I think there's something to be said about the clarity though, because I think what holds people back sometimes is they say, I'm not clear, so I'm going to stay right here. Right. Sometimes in our journey, we're not 100% clear, except we know that we need to be doing something different than where we are right now. So it's like, listen, I'm going to take a step.
Yes. And
the clarity is going to come along the way, or the more clear clarity. You might have a little bit of, you don't have the full big picture. You don't have the picture on top of the puzzle box fully sussed out yet. But you're like, listen, I know that I need to solve a puzzle. I know that I've got this gift, this talent. I know that I'm built to make a change in the world. So I'm just going to step forward. So in the absence of like ultimate clarity, this is kind of where we go back to that perseverance and grit. Like, listen, Martin Luther King said, faith is taking the first step, even when you can't see the entire staircase. right? I'm gonna move forward, even though I am not 100% certain of what the outcome is going to be.
Wow, love that, love that. This is a powerful insights, and I think another thing that's real important on this, I think, is Angela Duckworth has a book out called Grit.
Love that.
I think that's important, and it reminds me David Goggins. For those who may not know, he was a 3-time Special Forces, Black Special Forces, which is a double feat to itself. Not many people have done 3 or 4. And to your point, Robert, you talked about clarity of clarity. I think something like that is that he knew he needed a change, so he said, "I want to be part of the baddest, in a good way, organization that has high performers." He didn't know anything beyond that. He just said, "Let me throw myself to them." So is that kind of, Robert, what I'm hearing you say? You may not always know the next step, but you know what you're doing is not working. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. Right? Yeah. I mean, it's I'm agreeing with David about clarity, especially when you get to a place where you got to have a strong why. You got to be clear on why you're doing something. But you may not always, I don't want people to be stuck because they don't have the final picture figured out just yet. So I just wanted to make that add that to what David was saying.
It's almost like you know where you know where you're going, right? Like, okay, I know where I'm going. I'm just not 100% clear right on the path. But yet I'm going to continue moving. And I'm not going to stop moving. I remember when I did an Ironman race years ago, one of the most important things.
David, sorry, David. You can't just go past that and say that like that. I did an Ironman. You keep talking. I mean, I find it hard enough to go around the park. So, David, say that slowly. Slowly. I did an Ironman. Say that slowly, brother.
I did Ironman Lake Placid in 2018, Ramon. And one of the most important things somebody said to me was, keep moving. So 7 hours into the race, 5 hours into the race, I just kept saying to myself, just keep moving, just keep moving, keep moving. And I'll tell you, that little simple tip got me through that race. Just kept going. No matter what, don't stop, just keep moving. Even if you have to slow down, he said, just keep moving. Don't stop, don't walk, just keep moving.
I love it. Let's jump into some other topics here. And again, we may not cover everything that we talked about in the rundown with Ramon, but this discussion is already good so far. I think I have 3 of the very smartest people on the planet.
Wow.
I think on the planet who are here today.
I'll take it.
We also touched on, Lolita, the aspect of how to successfully found 2 businesses at the same time. And we don't have to talk about each topic at length the whole time, but if we have something on it, let's do it. I think that's interesting, Lolita. As you know, I do multiple things at one time. And I think that what was interesting about this article, I want to quote Lucas Miller. He talked about the importance of delegation, tracking time, using a single location for businesses, and benchmarking. Anything come from you, Lolita, David, or Robert on this aspect of delegation, tracking time, or benchmarking? Anything jumps out at you, Lolita?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about what I call DQ, which is do it, delegate it, or disappear. I'm all about it. And sometimes at the baseline of that is trust. If you think about organizations, if you think about entrepreneurship, sometimes we feel as though we have to do it because we're the only people who could do it. Guess what? Not true. Not true. And if you're a good leader, right, you've already imparted the wisdom to your employees or those around you, so they talk on behalf of you and represent you. And then therefore, you're able to do the strategic work that you're in place for. And I think oftentimes as leaders, we forget that. We think that we have to be in the forefront, but your people, when they're doing the work that you've already taught them how to do, let them run and leave them. Yeah. And then when it comes to benchmarking, I do believe that we should set benchmarks, and we should always make sure that we're going and reassessing, assessing and adjusting, right? Assessing and adjusting where you are, because just even talking to you 3, I get challenged every day. Ramon, as you continue to talk about these CRMs and email systems and selling businesses and broadening your horizon, that then says, okay, Lolita, that more. You don't know how, but that more is there. So that grit, that perseverance, that drive, that my name means something. And so for me to do the stuff up here, I'm going to have to absolutely delegate and disappear. Ooh, that rhyme. Did you like that? I didn't even mean that.
Every time Lolita speaks, I get some chills. Like, you know what I'm saying? David, talk to us, man. Talk to us about any of those things.
Yeah, when you think about delegation, I struggle with this a bit in my own life and my own journey. And, I think it first comes down to stop being a perfectionist. So, you know, I'm a perfectionist. I think I'm a perfectionist. I think I'm really great at everything. And what I realized, I'm not really that good at a lot of things that I think I was great at, but yet I couldn't give up control. I couldn't give it to someone else to do it. So I really think it comes down to just getting to a place, like for me, I got to a place of pain. Like I could not physically do anymore. I had to delegate stuff out. And then I realized, wow, this assistant took things that I set up, like systems that I thought were great, and made them 10 times better. So I think it starts with just, you know, first looking at ourselves and saying, okay, do I need to be in control? Can I give up control? Where do I want to go with my business? Go back to the first conversation. Where am I going? Can I get there myself? No, I need to get there with other people. So.
And doesn't it feel good, David, when you have your team telling you what to do in a good way? I've come to the point sometimes where, and I see Robert shaking his head, where it's like, you know, you come in and somebody's telling, oh, no, just so you know.
You have to hire great people.
Yeah. But I changed the order. I changed how you did it. We're going to do it this way. I'm like, okay, done.
Amen.
That's like Nirvana. Robert, talk to us.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, I've struggled with Superman syndrome for a very long time, right? And I think when you get to a certain place in life and in business where you realize, my gosh, I cannot grow by operating by a list of tasks or to-dos that I need to do every day. So I kind of got to the place where I realized my time needs to really be spent in 4 areas in my business. It's spent in frameworks and systems, kind of building those or conceptualizing those. It's spent in personal development, learning, and figuring out how to improve myself and be better. My mindset's got to be at a certain space, right? My third area that I spend time in is business strategy. Where's the business headed? What does it need to look like? What are the resources that I need to make certain things happen? And then the last place is in content creation. What is that unique expertise? What is the unique story that I've got that I can share with the world that only I can, right? And so those are the things that I need to do. Everything else, as far as on the task list, I better be finding some resource or somebody. Go to Fiverr, Upwork, somewhere. I gotta go somewhere to get somebody else to. I should not be in WordPress figuring out code to build a website for nothing. I can, but that's not my best spent time as a leader. So I had to learn that. So yeah, hopefully those 4 things were beneficial for somebody.
That's powerful. If it was Alita, she would have said it in some rhyme or acronym. But Robert, for
true.
sure, for sure, Robert, when you said that, it's funny you said that. I think we all have technical competencies. And I like how you said, I can. Same with me. I can do WordPress probably better than the average small business person who's never done it. But 3 a.m., I'm like CSS editing. I'm Googling how to stop, Ramon, go to your boy. Pay him the $50, $100, $25 an hour and get it done. So
get it done.
I hear you on that. Lolita, any comments you want to leave us on that?
You know, I will just say for a long time, and I think especially as small business owners like me, a number of folks have leaped from corporate, and you don't know how good you have it for resources until you're doing it on your own, like paper, printing, and admin, anything like that. And so for me, delegating and disappearing becomes so super important. But I'll tell you in the beginning, and I'm sure it was the same with you all, you do all things. You do all things because you're stopping yourself like, okay, I don't know if I have money for that yet. I don't really know if I need that. And then when you get into entrepreneurship, honey, Lord, everybody wants to help you. There's this program, but you got to do this, and then you got to talk to this, and you got to create this, and you got to stop and go back to the core foundation. Take a breath. And remember, I'm always talking about this, your strengths and your faith, like they will ground you. Ask the questions, take in the information, and give yourself permission to pause, right? It's okay to have help to go on this race when, of course, you don't know what the total outcome is going to be, but you know that it's more right now. And you have an idea of where it is that you want to head. The rest of it will come, right? The how will come later.
I love it. This is the question. Our next topic, we talked about motherhood, David and Robert. I should naturally ask Lolita this question, but as y'all know, since that comes naturally, I'm not going to do that. Right. So I'm not going to ask Lolita that question first. I'm going to throw Robert under the bus, the whole bus. And I'm going to ask you, Robert, in your life, Robert, your family, your wife, what you've come across, talk about that a bit, whether you agree or not. The article, the premise, the bottom line was that mothers were saying, you know what? even though we have husbands or men in our lives, whoever it is that work with us and help, it's just the lot falls to the mother differently, was kind of the premise of what we talked about. Robert, do you agree, disagree? Talk about that in your own personal life, whatever you want, but touch on that aspect.
Let's tell
Talk
the
to the mothers.
Let's tell the truth.
And be careful, Robert. Lolita's here. She's the only mom amongst us. Go ahead, Robert.
I don't need to be careful. I'm open in that way. So, right. But I might get myself in trouble. I had to walk through some things when I got married, and some belief systems that I had, and I had to adjust some of them a little bit. So here's one. I still believe in some ways that there are kind of roles that we fulfill in our household, right? Now, when I say that, some people immediately like cringe, like, oh, he's gonna go there.
Don't get us flamed, Robert. Do not get the show shut down.
When I say roles, I mean, I believe that there's some strengths that I have.
Yes.
That cause me to fulfill certain things in a better way, right? I believe that my wife is more nurturing than I am. and that's not to say that all women are that way versus a man. Every woman is. My wife is more nurturing than I am, right? So therefore, because she is the nurturing one, there's some things that I will leave to her to fulfill, right? And I'm kind of the big picture person, so there's some things that I do differently than my wife. And so in our household, there's these roles that we fulfill. So that said, as far as duties and women being less willing to outsource or to get rid of certain things, that's a matter of ownership. What's more important to a specific person? Yeah. Right. What do they feel is their role? What do they feel is their duty? Whether that is a place that they came to personally or they were socialized to be that way. I can see why women would be less willing because of society still evolving, and we're still kind of walking into a place where the right of women, the implicit biases that we have towards women are being addressed. So I'm doing my best to be aware of that. I'm not perfect at it just yet. I'm still working on it. My wife and I write this book that I just want to throw out there real quick.
Tell me, okay.
Called "We Should All Be Millionaires" by Rachel Rogers.
I have it.
And
yes.
And it addresses a lot of this stuff about outsourcing stuff, and it's written to women specifically, and it addresses all that stuff about. So if you haven't read it out there yet, that's go get that one.
Robert, we'll see what Lolita says, and we'll see if we get like a ton of hate mail coming in. But brother, maybe. I think you did very good. I think you did a great job of illustrating that. I must say, before I turn to you, David, echoing the same thing in my home. I mean, my lady, it's not, there's roles, whatever it is. And I do think that God has made us to have different strengths. I have different strengths my woman doesn't have. And she'll tell you that in a heartbeat. It's not about discrimination. And I think that it's funny that even in our household, no matter how much I try, my daughter goes to mama. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. I see Lolita's nodding. So guys, it looks like we're safe so far, but Lolita's going to be the judge, jury in a minute. David Hill, talk to us about this aspect, motherhood and mothers saying, you know what, they just have the stronger burden, even if no matter how much the family wants to help. That's what the article is talking about. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I think, I've got two young daughters at home and an amazing wife, and she works hard, and she does a lot. She takes care of the kids. She gets them to school. She makes the meals. She cleans the house. I mean, she does a lot. And, I'm a huge delegate. Like I would outsource everything I possibly can. That's how I'm wired. I want to do the least amount of work and make the most money possible. That's just how I roll. Right. Yep. My wife's not like that, but she's phenomenal at what she does. And she does it. And I don't think this is a general conversation, to be honest with you. I don't think we can generalize. I think it's, I'm certified in Abelson DISC, and I really think it comes down to behavior. I think certain people are going to be able to do it where other people are not going to be able to do it based on behavior, based on how you're wired and such. But, maybe you could say that, but I don't know. I'm just going to say my wife's an amazing wife, and I'll leave it at that, and we'll pass it to Lolita. How's that sound?
Lolita, bring us home. David, I think you did good. Lolita, talking on behalf of the moms, the busy moms who are saying no matter what it is, no matter how good our kids are, our husbands are, and I must say, in full disclosure, the article did talk about other, other mixes in households and et cetera. Specifically, they're talking about a man and a woman in a 2-parent household in this particular article. Lita, talk to us about that. You, the mom in particular, what are your thoughts representing the ladies? What do you say?
Let's represent and say what everyone said is yes, your children will go to mommy first, right? I think that our natural makeup is to be a nurturer.
Yeah.
I think that in general, we are nurturing spirits, right? We want to help, which is why there is this superwoman complex where we're doing everything and rarely do we pause and feel the power in it, right? Which is where I come in to help women to remember that outsourcing is absolutely okay as number one. I remember, just really quickly, when I had a financial advisor. I do still, but this first one that I had, and I remember her looking at it, my finances, and she said, is a cleaner, a housekeeper, a want or a need? And I said, oh, that's an absolute need. And we had this discussion on it because her thought was that that is something that can come off my plate. And I told her that I pay for convenience and I will ensure that, just like at the time someone was folding my laundry, like just because there are some things that are so important to me so that now I can rise up. I am a single mom. I'm a divorced single mom. And so I've been in a relationship, I've been out of a relationship, and I have a child. And so time is a commodity, right? And I'm an entrepreneur full time. So time is a commodity. And I fully believe in taking time for yourself. So does everybody come to mom? Absolutely. I am a lawyer. I'm a doctor. what else do you need? A therapist. What else do you need? That's all me, right? My son thinks so. And I'm happy to take on that role. But it's also, you talked expectations first, right? Open communication and communicating with everyone in your household about what looks like help and what feels like help, and knowing yourself and knowing that it's okay to give some of it up. The kitchen will get done. I remember my ex-husband, this is something he said to me all the time. When I cook, I clean. This is Lolita E. Walker. As I cook, I clean. So when the food is done, so are the dishes are done. But when he cooks, he didn't clean. And so I'll be looking at dishes and he's like, I got it. But before I go to bed, I want the whole kitchen to be clean. Lolita E. Walker. I go to bed before he went to bed. And so I'll be like, what's up? I got it, Lolita. So before I came down in the morning, it was always done, but the anxiety. So that's an example of, you delegated it, now disappear because it will get done. Trust. And that is a big, you got to talk about it. But I'll tell you, it was burning me up inside for a long time.
I think that is powerful, Lolita. Go ahead, Robert. What were you saying?
No, I was saying Lolita was talking about all those jobs. She's a lawyer. She's a doctor. I'm like, you're also an ATM. How about that?
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Right.
But I think you're right, Lolita. It goes back to communication and individual families. When I see the Hill household, Kennedy, the Walker household, we're all three different. But I think indeed we agree. God has made women nurturers, as it were. Men are too, but it's just we have different strengths and amounts of it. But it's funny, Lolita. Definitely, I think what you were saying, the aspect of you want to see it done. I'm a great dad, great father, husband, as best I can be. But my wife is like, she wants the towel moved. I'm like, we can move it in 4 hours. For her, it's like, no, I want it moved right now. So she ends up moving it. So anything y'all want to add, David or Robert, before we move on to the next topics and the rundown with Ramon? And thank you all for watching. Thanks for being part of this experience. We hope you DM each of us on IG, go to our platforms, and I'll ask them for their websites and things in the video. But we hope you're loving this. And if you're loving this episode, reach out across whatever platform you want, find us, and let us know that you love it. Even if you don't like it, that's okay. Reach out to, we want to know and serve you. Robert or David? David, let me see you. Anything you want to add on this segment about motherhood?
Now I know why, Lolita, thank you, that my wife is all fired up when I leave a bowl in the sink, like literally a cereal bowl and a spoon, and she's like, give me the evil eye. So
David, you
like, I got it.
You could have washed that, David. There was no other dishes in the sink.
I always do. I just don't do it in the exact moment. So it's all good though. So it's exactly what you said. I love it.
I don't have that problem at all because I just avoid the kitchen.
You use plasticware and let it go.
I was like, I'm not cooking.
And let me just explain something to you, Lolita. Let me try to mansplain this to you, Lolita, if you'll bear with me. Let me just try to educate you a bit. Let me just educate you a bit, Lolita. Bear with me here. Welcome to the School of Ramon. See, the bowl, Lolita, in the sink, that's maximizing our time. There could be something, see what I'm saying, David? There could be something on the show, maybe he on the TV, maybe he has to use the bathroom, and the bowl there, the single bowl, Lolita, the sink has a responsibility to hold a certain amount of dishes in there, for sure. See, I could go on this, but I don't want to drop too much science on you, Lolita. I'm trying to teach you. Am I helping, Lolita, or no?
I'm glad you switched that train to teach. I'm right there with you. Yes, I am right. I understand. Did y'all see it? It was from train to teach. I got it. Ramon, listen, I need the male perspective because it helps me to understand, did they think about that? Did they not see the dishwashing liquid right there? Or nope. But now that I understand the responsibility that the sink has, then now I'm more in tune. Thank you so much for that.
Lolita, your certificate is in the mail from the Ramon Ray Kitchen Sink Single Bowl School of Thought.
I'm going to have my wife reach out to you, Ramon, so you can help her to understand the situation better. Okay. I appreciate you, sir.
And Robert has my affiliate code, so you can use his affiliate code and we just roll.
Yeah.
I love you all so much. Let's move on here. All right. Listen, I talked about two other things I think I'm going to move on from unless there's somebody burning desire. In the rundown with Ramon, we talked about travel scenarios and travel guides. I travel quite a bit, of course, especially pre-pandemic. So bottom line, this thing here just talked about really take action fast. That's what this travel guide talked about. Anything, David, Lolita, or Robert, and if not, we'll roll on. But anything in particular about travel you wanted to touch on? David, good. I see you, Robert, Lolita. Okay, we'll keep rolling.
They say Tuesday early morning is best. That's all I got. Just get it when you think of it and keep it moving.
Well, try to avoid layovers. Like always try to get a direct flight if possible. That would be my only advice. Always try to fly direct.
Yes.
And buy from the airline. This is from Lolita E. Walker now.
Yes.
You can go to third parties to look at what the prices look like. However, buy direct from the airline because sometimes there are restrictions on those third parties and you'll be stuck.
Lolita, that is so true. I've gone to the desk like back in the day before Ramon was a global traveler, trying to say it with a French accent. Like, bought it from the third party site. Great, you got your discount. Then you go to the desk and you can see the look of disgust and disdain. Yes. Like United American, like, oh, what? You got it from Jomo's flight shop. Oh, you're gonna have to go from that line. I'm like, really? So yeah, Lolita, only I buy it right from the company itself.
Yes.
Cybersecurity is something very important that I think all small businesses to pay attention to. I'm going to move on from that, but we know you all watch that, and I encourage you be secure. I do want to focus on David Hill. I'm going to turn to you first. This nugget, Jason Fry, founder of 37 Signals, which is kind of productivity software for small business owners. He has a nice blog post that comes out on a regular basis, and he talked about, David, risks, decisions, and scarcity. And the one thing he said that I thought was interesting, maybe we can chat about it here for a bit, but the importance of taking risk. Now, I think, David, you can take risk too much and sink your company, sink your business, ruin your life. But I think, and feel free, again, we can all, no problem, disagreement here, but we can all take more risk. I find that you really, what do they say? The only shot you're for sure to miss is the one you don't take. David Hill, talk to us about that. Risk, is it important? Is it not? What do you say on that?
Well, I think again, it comes down to behavior. I feel like most people have their level, their risk, you're where you are, risk adverse, but in the end, I would say, do your homework, get as much information as possible before, and then you're gonna minimize the risk, right? It's a less risk because you've calculated things. And I'm gonna go back to what we were talking about earlier when it comes to certainty, right? In the lack of certainty, people are less willing to take action. Okay, most people won't take action. Okay, so I know we've said earlier, just take actions, but 80% probably will not take action when they're uncertain of something, when they're not 100% confident on something. So I think risk comes down to being certain, having enough information to make a calculated decision, and then just going for it. And also sometimes we have to expand that comfort zone that I started to talk about earlier. We all have a comfort zone. We live in the comfort zone. Most times we don't even know we're living there. And when things bring us to the end of the comfort zone, we have a little thermostat that kicks in and moves us right back to that comfort zone. So I think just knowing yourself, but make the risk as I don't know if calculated is the right word, but just minimize the risk. That would be my opinion on that, Ramon. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Robert, please.
Yeah, I get where David is, and I want to add to that, or maybe frame it a little bit differently, because we've got to decide what the outcome is that we want. Because if I say that I want to be at the top of the financial game, if I say that I want to be, the number one player in the NBA, then that necessitates me taking greater risk. I've got to do more work. I've got to do some stuff. if I say that, hey, I want to get, the latest Jordan shoes, okay? The risk there is not that big. If that's my goal, if that's the size of my goal, then the risk is not that big. But there's some risks that you may not be able to mitigate as much because you want to have a greater outcome. And so it really comes down to you understanding, hey, where do I want to end up? How big do I want to go? And if I want to go big, then the risk is going to be greater. Now, you can say, okay, I'll take smaller risks on the way, which is going to take me longer. But if I want to get there faster, then I've got to accelerate some things. So just really understanding your final outcome, or what your intended final outcome is what I would say, in order to understand how much risk you should be taking. And you've got to take risk in order to grow.
Absolutely. And I'll just leave a couple things. From my vantage point, it is, what is the cost and what is the loss? What is it going to cost you mentally, spiritually, financially, all of the leads, right? Add them all up, put them all on a grid. What is it going to cost me to achieve what it is that I want to achieve, where it is that I want to be? And what's the loss if I choose not to do anything today? Let's look at both of them, and then let's choose, as David said, to take action or not. You can sit where you're sitting right now and choose. You could go to the left, you go to the right. Hopefully we're moving forward, but sometimes people are going to stand in a complacency of where they are right now. And that might be okay. Maybe it's a not right now, but I do believe that when you want to grow, you're going to have to leap a little farther outside of the comfort zone to which you're standing in right now. I choose to call that complacency. We're doing good right now. Yeah. However, if there's more, and you know that there's more, you could feel it, you could see it, you've already talked to your future you, then I want you to lean in. And that means that you will have to take a risk, because you won't know all of the things. You won't know the how. You just know the why, and that why is what's propelling you. So what's the cost and what's the loss?
Yeah. Robert, you gonna add something?
Yeah, I love the whole idea of costing, because there's a cost for everything, right? A lot of times we look at other people and we say they have a better life than I do. And the truth is, all they have is a different set of problems, right? Life is just about what set of problems you choose to deal with. Right? It's not that if I get this much money, then I just won't have any problems anymore. No, you just got a different set of problems, and you just got to decide what set of problems you're willing to live with.
I love how you frame that, Robert. We got a few more minutes in this episode, by the way. And again, everybody, thanks for watching the Rundown with Ramon. But I feel that aspect as well, Robert. When I look at you three, I look at David Hill. He's like a ninja of personal development, always exercising his mind, his body, his family. I'm like drooling, like looking at his IG. Dang, I wish I could be that when I grow up. Then I'm looking at Robert, how his voice sounds. He got the beard. He got the perfect background. I'm gonna confess something to you, Robert. I did try to shop for like someone to get a background like you, but I just couldn't do it. And Lolita, the voice is like butter on a slice of raisin English muffin bread, and the brain, I'm like, so listen, I hear you're not, Robert. We got a few more minutes in this segment, several things we want to talk about, but one thing I'd love, and then we're going to talk about, we'll end with Ramon spilling spaghetti on the floor. About 5-6 minutes we'll go here, but one thing that was interesting, we can't help everyone. We can't save the world. Now, Old Navy, you may have seen the headline, wanted to get clothes for everyone in its effort to be more diverse. And that's noble, and I get it. But I'm taking it a different way, Lolita. I'll turn to you first. The aspect for us small businesses. Sometimes I feel some people want to help everyone, but I think, and feel free to disagree, maybe there's a different way to think about it, but that for us small businesses with small budgets, we're trying to help everybody. I think it's a high barrier. And I tell people, Lolita, sell at a premium. My friend Seth Godin talks about sell at a premium, focus on a certain network of people. Then with your wealth of your time, help who you want. But Lolita, feel free to reframe that, talk about how you want. I think you get what I'm trying to bring out here.
Yeah, I totally agree, Ramon. I remember leaping from corporate. I talked about that before, but I remember saying, oh my gosh, I've managed different types of people for all my life. Of course I can help everybody. Of course I can empower everybody. And the reality is, yes, I can. But here it is that confused people don't purchase, right? Confused people decide not to. And I remember someone reminding me, Lolita, who is it that you're working with? I want to go tell people. And I remember saying, well, I think I can work with everybody. And just like you, Ramon, they said, You can. You're skilled like that. But I want you to market to one type of person. Therefore, when you're talking to Jane, who is a woman between 30 and 55, then you already know where it is she plays. You know where it is she hangs out. You know what her issues are, and you know how you are specifically going to solve them. Does it mean that Ramon's brother is not going to come in for me to coach them or to speak within their organization? Absolutely not. Ramon probably will. And I might even slide him into my coaching spot. Absolutely. Because yes, I can do that. I possess the skill set. But for the women that I am tapping into right now, for the organizations that I know that I have tangible results for because I am good at what I do, then I want to be sure that I market directly to them. So I totally agree with you, Ramon. We can do it all, but in order to make sure that we are tailoring our help, our empowerment, our skill set, our knowledge to one group is so super important.
Yeah, I remember Lolita and that clarity. Remember that lady, we were together at BWC at an event, and a lady had walked past, and as I was getting to know you a bit better, even though you can do a lot, you said, but you were really clear. I help women do XYZ.
Yes.
A lady in that demographic, right? She grabbed me and was talking to me. I said, stop. I said what you said in reverse. I can help you, sure. But I said, stop. You need to see Lolita.
Yes.
So I hear what you're saying. Robert, David, anything quick you want to share on that? If not, no problem. I want to go to the last end before we wrap up here. Anything you wanted to add, Robert or David? If not, no problem.
I'll let you jump to the end, bro.
All right, good. Yeah. So bottom line here, everybody, listen, I had bought some red marinara penne noodle stuff from the pizza shop. David, I had it all ready for a night of Netflix with the family. I took out a slice of pizza from the box, comes in a box, at least how we do in Jersey. And everything's spilled on the floor, David. Everything's spilled on the floor. So Robert, I have on the beige floor, red all over the place, and I felt dejected. Bottom line with that, I just wanted to recap these points, and then David, I'll turn to you, and then Robert, you can close us out in this amazing segment. Yeah, I wasted money. Yeah, I was upset. My wife wasn't so happy. She forgave me, by the way. But I think the bottom line, the lesson I learned from this, David, is the aspect that I had to move on. I made a big mistake, but I learned from it. And you, David, I promise you, you will never find red marinara penne on another carpet in my entire life again. So what do you think about that, David? Just lessons learned when you make a mistake, moving on. What are your thoughts, David?
Hey, man, I'll tell you, I've got a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old running around my house. So you would not believe what we find on carpets, on walls, under tables. And yes, here's what I would say, man. Gratitude. Everything comes down to gratitude. So, sometimes I find myself in a moment, and then I just have to really look around beyond just the spaghetti sauce and say, okay, look at look at my life, look at my house, look at my kids, look at you know what I mean? And then it goes into perspective. So gratitude.
Love it. Robert?
I think the thing that when I hear that, I remember I was at a summer camp when I was a kid, and they would give us these lunches, and this one kid was getting his sandwich together, and he had this mustard packet, and he ripped open the mustard packet, and the mustard packet spilled on his shirt, and he had a white shirt on. Now, what he did was he took his hand and he did like this to try to clean the mustard off his shirt, and instead made this big yellow mess on his shirt. So the rest of the camp, we called him Mustard Man. Right? And so I think I compare that with your story, because sometimes you can make a mess and you try to deal with it in your own way. And this goes back to the things that we've been talking about. You try to deal with it your own way by yourself, and you can end up making a bigger mess. So just like what you talked about, you make the spill, you confess it to your wife, you look at what the next thing is that you need to do. What are the resources that you need? You need to get cleaner. You need to get somebody else. You need to delegate some of these things so that you can get the mess cleaned up effectively, and you can go on with your life and not have to be cleaning up additional messes because you try to do it on your own. So my takeaway again is get help, get resources, delegate. Don't do it on your own, because you don't want your messes to be made bigger and be called Mustard Mad for the rest of the summer.
I love it. Lolita, I want to hear from you, but then I want to have a round robin real quick to have all of you just tell us how we can reach you one more time. But Lolita, anything you want to add about this segment with Ramon spilling red penne on the floor?
No, listen, I think you got the lesson at the end. You said, guess what? I will never do again. And that's what it is. You take the lessons from things that happen and you recognize, all right, we're going to move forward. But guess what will not happen to me one more time? So when you get pizza or marinara sauce and you choose you will choose not to either go in that room or go ahead and eat it right before you go in, because I don't want any problems, right? You remember those things and it creates this something in your mind that allows you now to be successful the next time. I'm all in. That was good.
I love it. Robert Kennedy, where can the audience here reach you and get to know more about you? What's the best website, IG handle? What's the one best resource they should go to, Robert?
Listen, I'm Robert Kennedy 3 on all social media. Well, no, except for TikTok. Some dude stole Robert Kennedy 3 on TikTok, and he's not even active. A little bit upset with him. So I'm real Robert Kennedy.
That's an episode.
But yeah. So yeah, IG, LinkedIn, cool. Twitter, Facebook, Robert Kennedy 3. Connect with me. I am mainly hanging out on LinkedIn these days. So hit me there.
Love it. David Hill, where would you like the audience here to find out more about you and dive into what you do?
Well, first off, I think you need a new name for the show. It's going to be 3 bald dudes in a dope fade. How's that sound?
Already? No.
All right. So listen, here's the easiest way to find me is davidhill.link. That's it. davidhill.link. Everything is there. All my socials, information on my coaching, training, anything you need, davidhill.link. Appreciate you. Nice to meet you as well, Robert. And Lolita, always great to see you. Thank you.
Lolita, where can we find out more about you and those who want to work with you and dive into what you do, Lolita?
Yes, I was sitting here like, where's the single place I'm sending folks today? You know what? LinkedIn. Let's head on over to LinkedIn, and that will be Lolita-E-Walker. Lolita E. Walker. Yep, come on over. Let's have a great, juicy conversation, and then they can tap into a couple things I'm doing, which is amazing. Thanks, Ramon.
You're welcome. Lovely. Everybody, this is the Rundown with Ramon panel, where we bring you information and insight to help grow your business or live a better life. Thank you so much for watching.